The following video is intended for mature audiences. It contains horror elements, adult themes, and language that might not be suitable for younger viewers. In a world where the looming specter of climate change grows ever more real, 2012 takes the fears of environmental collapse and spins them into an adrenaline-pumping, visually stunning disaster movie. Directed by Roland Emmerich, who previously helmed other iconic end-of-the-world blockbusters like Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow, this film escalates the stakes, depicting a series of apocalyptic events so catastrophic that the very future of humanity hangs in the balance. What sets 2012 apart from countless other disaster films is its grand scale, mesmerizing special effects, and a storyline that balances human resilience with overwhelming dread. For those who, like myself, appreciate films that test the limits of survival, 2012 delivers in spades. Its terror lies not just in the massive destruction, but in how disturbingly plausible the scenario feels, particularly in a world already experiencing increasing environmental upheaval. At the heart of 2012 lies an ancient Mayan prophecy predicting that December 21st, 2012 would mark the end of the world. While this prophecy sets the tone, the movie takes a more scientifically grounded approach to explain its events. The sun is bombarding the Earth with massive solar flares, heating the planet's core and causing unprecedented geological activity. This leads to massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and even the shifting of continents. The resulting chaos is cataclysmic. Human civilization as we know it begins to crumble. At first glance, the setup might seem familiar, especially for those who've seen The Day After Tomorrow. In that earlier film, the Earth's climate turns violently against humanity in response to global warming. However, 2012 quickly carves its own unique path. Where The Day After Tomorrow was limited to one type of disaster, 2012 gleefully incorporates nearly every imaginable form of environmental destruction. The scale of devastation is larger, the stakes higher, and the urgency more palpable. The terror of 2012 doesn't solely stem from massive pieces of cities crumbling or mountains collapsing into the sea. It is also rooted in the psychological toll that such an unprecedented disaster has on its characters. Unlike many disaster films that focus on destruction, 2012 attempts to explore the psychology of survival, the moral dilemmas people face when society breaks down, and the sacrifices they must make for loved ones. Jackson Curtis, a struggling writer and the film's protagonist, is an everyman caught up in the maelstrom. He is thrust into survival mode when the world begins to fall apart, and his primary goal is protecting his family. What makes his character compelling is the emotional depth behind his actions. Jackson isn't a hero because of superhuman abilities, but because of his sheer will to survive and the primal need to safeguard his children. As the world collapses around him, Jackson grapples with both personal demons and the sheer scope of the disaster. The pain of a broken family, his estranged wife has moved on with another man, is juxtaposed against the larger existential threat of losing everything. The internal conflict and the anxiety of racing against time heighten the tension, as Jackson fights not just for his family's survival, but for his reconciliation with them. Similarly, Dr. Adrian Helmsley, a government scientist who first uncovers the impending cataclysm, embodies the ethical and moral questions of who should be saved in a global catastrophe. As he works with world leaders to orchestrate an escape plan for a select few, Adrian becomes the film's moral compass, advocating for the value of all human lives over the cold pragmatism of leaving billions behind. His internal struggle represents the broader dilemma in disaster situations. How do we choose who gets to live and who doesn't? The characters' motivations drive the emotional core of the film. In a story of such epic destruction, it would be easy for the characters to feel secondary, but 2012 gives them just enough emotional depth to ground the narrative. The film cleverly interweaves personal stories of love, loss, redemption, and sacrifice into the larger narrative of survival, making the viewer care not just about the world's fate, but the individual fates of its characters. What truly sets 2012 apart is its breathtaking visual effects. Roland Emmerich, known for his ability to depict large-scale destruction, outdoes himself here. The film's action sequences are some of the most elaborate and visually captivating ever put to screen. From the initial destruction of Los Angeles as it slides into the Pacific Ocean to the eruption of Yellowstone's supervolcano, 2012 pulls no punches when it comes to showing the Earth literally tearing itself apart. The sheer scale of destruction is dizzying, and the use of CGI is top-notch, allowing for massive, sweeping shots of global devastation. It's not just a city or two that falls, but entire countries, and this scale gives the film a terrifying grandeur. Watching massive tsunamis swallow entire continents, or seeing skyscrapers crumble as the earth shatters beneath them, evokes both awe and dread. The special effects in 2012 stand out as some of the most impressive in disaster cinema, and they are integral to the immersive experience of the film. However, the visual spectacle is not simply for show. It serves to heighten the emotional and psychological stakes. Each moment of destruction reminds the viewer of the fragility of life and the overwhelming power of nature. The sense of scale in 2012 reinforces the central theme. In the face of nature's wrath, humanity is small and vulnerable. Disaster movies are often accused of being formulaic. There's a catastrophe, a reluctant hero, and a desperate race for survival. But 2012 rises above the genre's cliches in several ways. First, the film's sheer ambition makes it stand out. Few disaster movies dare to imagine global destruction on this scale, and 2012 doesn't shy away from showing the apocalyptic consequences of climate catastrophe. The events in the film are not confined to a single location or a few characters. Instead, they encompass the entire planet, making the stakes feel truly universal. Second, 2012 is more than just an action-packed spectacle. At its core, it's a meditation on humanity's response to existential threats. The film is rife with moral questions. Who deserves to be saved? How do we rebuild society after a cataclysm? And what role does government play in such decisions? The inclusion of political intrigue, government cover-ups, and the ethical dilemmas of saving a select few adds layers of complexity to the story, elevating it beyond a typical disaster narrative. Finally, 2012 reflects our deep-seated anxieties about climate change and environmental collapse. While the events depicted in the film are exaggerated for dramatic effect, the underlying concerns are very real. As sea levels rise, polar ice melts, and extreme weather events become more frequent, the fear that we are on the brink of irreversible environmental disaster is palpable. 2012 taps into these fears, offering a dramatic representation of what might happen if we fail to heed the warnings of scientists and environmentalists. Watching the film in today's context, especially after experiencing the devastating impact of natural disasters like Hurricane Helene, gives 2012 a terrifying new relevance. It no longer feels like pure fiction, it feels like a warning. The psychological aspect of 2012 is equally compelling. Characters are faced with their mortality, and their decisions in the face of certain death reveal their true selves. Some rise to the occasion, exhibiting bravery, while others descend into selfishness and panic. The film deftly explores the various ways people cope with the apocalypse, from denial to sacrifice to blind hope. The psychology of survival is further explored through the global response to the disaster. Governments scramble to save a privileged few, while billions are left to fend for themselves. This depiction of the world's elite safeguarding their survival at the expense of the masses is not just a plot device. It's a pointed critique of real-world inequalities that become especially stark during crises. The moral dilemma of who gets to live and who dies forms the crux of the film's emotional weight, forcing viewers to confront uncomfortable questions about humanity's capacity for compassion and cruelty. 2012 is not just a disaster movie. It's an epic journey that combines heart-pounding action with a sobering reflection on the human condition. The film's stunning special effects and gripping storyline make it a standout in the genre, but its exploration of survival, sacrifice, and humanity in the face of global annihilation gives it a depth rarely seen in disaster films. For those who love survival and disaster movies, 2012 is a must-watch. Its scale, ambition, and emotional resonance make it one of the best entries in the genre. Watching it at a time when climate change and environmental collapse are becoming more real by the day only adds to its terrifying plausibility. It's a film that stays with you, reminding us of the fragile balance between humanity and nature, and the consequences we might face if we don't act soon. 2012 is a disaster, survival action-adventure that is 2 hours and 38 minutes long and is rated PG-13. The Southern Underworld gives it 5 bloody knives. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.